The idea this week was planted like a seed that somehow blew through Martha's mind and came out her ear and landed in some very fertile ground that she tilled and tilled, and it started to take a life of its own, and the rest of us got to benefit from the plants that were produced from that idea. I'm really especially grateful for the opportunity to introduce David Orr, who is our distinguished rapporteur. Maybe a new title for David, I'm not sure. Distinguished certainly is. This week we focus on issues of local and global sustainability, highlighting the themes of rivers, indigenous communities, and justice. This morning, David has been asked to give us a summation, his thoughts on what he observed, to help us braid together knowledges and ideas put forth during the week. David likened this to summing up Wikipedia. I've known David through his work for more than 20 years, and it's been a special joy for me to spend time with him and his wife, Elaine. I've been rereading some of David's essays, and I've come to realize that many of my most original thoughts actually belong to him. The planet does not need more successful people. What we need is more healers and more storytellers. That's not me, that's him. For years, I've been telling people there's no better institution than a university to lead the transition to a sustainable world. Our students are only here for 4 years. Their education lasts a lifetime. What we teach them and how we teach them, it matters. It's not my thought. David said it much more often and much better than I. David writes a lot. For a long while, he was a regular columnist for conservation biology. He's written 8 books and co-edited 5 more, including the recently published Democracy in a Hotter Time, which I'm happy to have signed yesterday. Can't wait to dig into it. He's authored over 250 publications, and there's no sign of him stopping. It's been a real treat for me to hear David talk about many of his good friends. Their names decorate my bookshelf. Like his buddy Ray Anderson, founder of Interface Carpet, and a pioneer in sustainable business and the circular economy. Ray, whose carpet can be found across campus here at the University of Richmond, realized that he needed to align what he was doing in business with principles in nature to stop the harm he was causing. The carpet business had traditionally been a very extractive and fossil fuel dependent industry. Interface is now probably the most sustainable business in the world and a model of what can be doing well by doing good. And Ray got that idea, what he called a shot to the heart, by reading Paul Hawken, another one of David's friends. David connected with a lot of these folks while he was at the Meadow Creek Project, an experiment in sustainable design and community building in the Ozarks. He created this with his brother Wilson, whom he likes to brag about. David likes to talk about his family a lot. Apparently Wilson could just fix or build just about anything. And then this allowed the Orrs to gather with folks like Rocky Mountain Institute's Amory Lovins, systems thinking pioneer Dana Meadows, and the poet farmers Wes Jackson and Wendell Berry. People who could philosophize with the best of them. I'm sure there was a lot of talking going on, but they also walk the walk. And David helped draw them into community by building a place where they could think together and gather together and do together. David grew up in and around academia. After Meadow Creek, he spent 3 decades at Oberlin College, where he's the Paul Sears Distinguished Professor of Environmental Studies and Politics, again, distinguished. He also serves as counselor to the president, which has a nice ring to it, right? Right now, he's currently a professor of practice at Arizona State University, still counseling the president there. He cut his teeth at Westminster College in Western PA, way Western PA. I'm sure there's some Ohio PA boundary issues over there. That's where he managed his most important feat, convincing his now wife Elaine to go out with him. As David says, he saw her water skiing on a lake in Westminster, where his father was president, and decided that this graceful, strong athlete needed rescuing. Elaine, who was a 4th grade teacher. It's like one of those bumper stickers from the SPCA, who rescued who. Elaine, who was a 4th grade teacher for 30 years, is as patient with him as she would be with a 9-year-old in her And like that classroom, she makes sure she has the last word. That is not the way it happened, he said with authority. David leans over. You know, back home in some circles, I'm Mrs. Elaine Moore, which is as it should be. David has multiple board and advisory positions, received 9 honorary degrees, and keeps racking up these lifetime achievement awards from major institutions. The Sierra Club called him a wizard. The Adam Joseph Lewis Center, which David funded and led the effort to build. This is a person with a PhD in international relations, not architecture, not engineering, which, through years of experience from Meadow Creek, allowed him to have the audacity to build the greenest building in the world. Was named the most important green building of the past 30 years by the AIA, one of 30 milestone buildings of the 20th century by the US Department of Energy, and was selected as one of the 52 game-changing buildings of the last 170 years by the editors of Building Design and Construction magazine. David took what he learned at the Lewis Center when helping to design and fund the platinum-related Peter R. Lewis Gateway Center, a hotel and conference center in Oberlin, and he keeps talking the talk and walking the walk. David does not tolerate neck-up education. He champions whole person learning, head, heart, and hands, which is more language of mine that he stole by writing it first. That sensibility comes through in his interactions with students and with colleagues. They're centered in kindness and curiosity. It is in relationship that the magic happens. Please join me in welcoming one of my favorite thinkers and doers, David Orr.
Whether on mute or do you want me to stay on mute or what live? All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Rob, thanks for that introduction. Half of it's true. What he didn't tell you is how that started when I was a little kid, 5 years old. They had incarcerated me and my buddies in the basement of the Wilmington Presbyterian Church, as part of our educational arrangements. And every lunch, we would eat our little lunch and go lie down and take a nap. And it was at a basement place. There was a little casement window up here. And we decided it's better, to go get ice cream. So we pulled a table over to the window, stacked another table on top of that one, and then went out through the casement window. Over. And they discovered us up half a block away at the ice cream store. We were all just did. That was back in the days when we did scoop ice cream for 5 cents. And I thought that kind of set the template, kind of jailbreak out of education. So I've been at that for a while. How many of you know Martha Merritt well?
Oh boy.
Martha called me. You call what, 6 months ago or a year ago? And she said we're going to have this event at University of Richmond. You come and do the summation. Well, I've done that time or two before. I thought, well, yeah, that's easy enough to do. And I thought that she was very dismissive. She's charming person, just charming. There's nobody in the universe who can do what you do. Just be honest. Deans will do that. So Martha convinced me, and I thought, well, there's not much to this. You just give a talk. The summation just means to say what you already heard. Easy enough, yeah, not bad. And then I got here. And the problem was, here's the program. See here, down here in yellow, I'm supposed to give the summation. Now, summation is kind of a tidy enough. Loose ends and loose strings. And this is what they meant to tell you. And this is what you're supposed to do with it. So that's a summation. Now, the problem is here's the cover of this. You all have seen this? Okay, now, let me just walk through the cover with you. Braided Knowledges. That's plural. Wait a minute. We're products of Descartes, you've heard of Descartes, and Galileo, and Bacon, and the nice white guy, right that. And so we built the civilization on their thinking. Now, implicit in this, my friend Daniel is going to say, well, wait a minute, implicit, he didn't know enough to do that. The whole civilization based on Galileo, Bacon, Descartes, by the way, Descartes, true story, Descartes, when they buried him, died up in Norway, when they buried him, he was French. They couldn't find his head. His head had been literally taken out of the casket. So this guy that said, I think, therefore I am, most famously, they can't find his head. Wrong. Apparently nobody knows where it is. It's not clear when he lost it, when he was still alive, when he lost it, or what, I don't know. But anyway, that's, so braided knowledge means that what we have built, University of Richmond on, and Oberlin College, and Harvard, and Sorbonne, and all these places. There may be flaws in it. It's a little bit like having being on an airplane at 35,000 feet, and somebody starts talking about to the pilot's not sure he believes in the laws of gravity. Fundamental flaws. So, braided knowledge. So that's the start here of my another one. What do I say about this? So Martha did give me a hint about this. I'll go about it. She said, you all know. After I got here, I was on my own and had to figure this out myself. Now, then sustainable future. Well, there's been another thing on the board. What is sustainable? Lasting and is there a future? No, I do hope there is. So there's a being like tonight. So you got the sustainable future. Well, there's another conundrum I'm supposed to respond to that. Martha Gray. There's subtitle of the program. Rivers. See right there, rivers. You got now rivers are what? Water. And they flow along. So we heard that maybe rivers ought to be given person, but well, you are a person. You walk around, you talk, and so forth. Rivers don't walk around; they flow, and they don't talk. They burble and bubble and so forth. But person is for rivers. So these things about water. If you drain the water on any one of us, we're reduced to about the size of a golf ball. Think about that. I mean, we're mostly water. And most of that golf ball is the remnants of other little critters that inhabit us, all those little organisms that inhabit us. We're just a congress of rowdy organisms that inhabit us. I mean, you think about personhood. So what that personhood of what? Our bodies are all these other things. In indigenous communities, this is interesting because we've had some wonderful things, and great speakers here talking about indigenous communities, people who live their own place. I want to make a distinction. You and I, all of us are indigenous to planet Earth. We live in the same planet. We're just, if you get off and get out of the University of Richmond and you don't know what planet you're on, and you just go to Martha's office, ask for your money back. And you need to know how it works too. I mean, how the planet works, anything physical system. So indigenous, I want to make a distinction between, say, people who live in place. You've got a great example here in the program. People who live in place. Those are place people. They know where they're from. They know how it works. They will defend it. And that's long term. That's place-based. Unfortunately, the world they call Bacon and Galileo, all these white folks, gave us a different kind of world. And we are, as a result, deplaced people. Deplaced people means the land you live on is just real estate. I own it, I do what I want with it, and property. But property doesn't really fit in indigenous communities. We heard this over and over again. We will fight to defend property. I'm going to talk about the Constitution in just a minute. We fight to defend our right to own property and our right in ourselves as property. Locke called it labor. But we have this right of ourselves and so forth. We live in a world where that is for displaced people. And then increasingly we have a problem in the world of displaced people. Displaced people are refugees, driven out of their homes by war and increasingly climate change. The UN estimates that by the middle of this century, there could be as many as 2 billion planet refugees. And that maybe is the low end. It may be a lot more than that. So, and then you get to justice. That's in the title here, right up here, the word justice. So we've got these three problems. Justice is difficult. I was on a grand jury that was handled years ago to investigate a crime in a rural county in northern Arkansas that had involved, somebody had taken a very exact sum, like $2,321.18 out of the tax receipts at the sheriff's office. He was the tax collector. So we were able to find out who had done it. With the footprints and so forth, somebody had taken it out of the ledger books. Long story short, we tracked it down to a woman called Thelma Lou. Thelma Lou had probably taken, this is a grand jury, says we're not putting it, they're going to try. So we had evidence that she had taken the money out because she had deposited that exact amount in a bank account and then written a check to that exact amount to Baptist Hospital with a little up evidence. So prima facie evidence to be very anybody. And we started voting. I was the third going around the jury table. The first woman said, well, I know some of it on the life, I just don't think she do a thing like that. And with the words like that, so it just ripped the air, and the guy sitting beside her said, yeah, she didn't take a penny more than she needed. She didn't take a penny more than she needed. Because she had spent the money. I was laughing too hard with her. She had spent the money on her husband's medical bill. Years ago, also we got the there was a song called Stand By Your Man. Thelma Lou stood by her man. She had no health insurance, so she had. So people like us, deep-placed people, thought, oh, the room's full of West Oberlin. Thelma Lou to this day, as far as I know, still walks through the county seat. So, what is justice? Strict justice would say, you gotta pay it back, you gotta go to jail. It's robbery. Place justice, I think, was different. He didn't take a penny more than she needed. It wasn't greed, it wasn't crime, there was no violence coming, but he had to deal with his problems. He had no health care. And so the question here is what's justice? That's the third item on the program. And how are we, deep-placed people, who are going to ask for justice in future generations? When they look back at all the coal that we burned and all the oil, we are in the other part goes to the great rather words, we are deranged people. That's how he thinks we will be seen. That's all this in the room. So justice is a problem. Now I have some notes here. I'm going to leave all of those out. The title of the program puts me, Martha, in a real bind. I can't do this. I can't.
Now you tell me.
Okay. Martha. Martha gave me an undoable assignment. Now, I know you students, you don't have those kind of assignments. Your professors don't give you undoable things, right? You all get A's, right? You're not nodding, you just thought, okay, never mind. So here's the problem. All of this stuff that is the program are systems problems. Now, there are two kinds of systems problems. Ones that are convergent and ones that are divergent. So, if I've got a broken carburetor on a pickup truck, that is a convergent problem. I know how to fix that, or I should know how to fix it. That's an easy problem in mechanics. Divergent problems are tribes, nations, people. There is no logical, personal, easy answer to what ails us. I mean, think of U.S. Congress right now. Think of Hamas and Israel right now. Divergent problem. There's no simple, easy, direct answer to those things. Now, the word system, you all heard it, you all use it. In mechanical, remember the 737 MAX, the Boeing airplane? They took an airplane that was an old airplane. The old stuff that had been around for decades. And they wanted to upgrade it because all the software systems on the plane was different from now back to then. So rather than upgrade it, another system intervened on called economics in the business plan. You got to save money. So you took the old airframe and they patched all these computer things to it. Crash twice. Fewer than 300 people died. There were hundreds of people that died because of that patch. That was a system problem. They needed to start all over again and design a different airplane with computers and all kinds of smart systems and so forth. That old airplane could not be patched and be saved. That was a systems issue, but there are others. In any language, the word system, which implies we are related, in any language, that's the most radical word in the language. Because you think about interrelatedness, we're all part of the same system. We're all embedded in this. And what you do matters to me, and vice versa, and matters to people far away. I want to come to the end of this in 1 second. I'm going to say we can't solve the issue of saving the rainforest until we solve system problems here called politics. It's all related. The things, the pressures that lead to the roads we saw on the GIS maps, those pressures originate here in systems we call the economy and business plans and so forth. So we are related. And what systems do spill out in all the way around the world and so forth, and then through time. Green Faulkner once said nothing is ever really finished. Things spill off into the future. So we're never really done. It's something, what you do and what I do affects things for a long time to come. So systems. So systems have limits. They are relations. There are leads and there are lags. There's some things you can do to the planet as a system. Now, the effects of which won't be felt for decades in the future. So there are leads and lags in this system. There are also what are called emergent properties. So emergent properties are things you couldn't predict. And again, back on water, you could take these waters would say that water is 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. But there is a third thing that makes it water. And nobody knows what that is. Emergent property. And systems are like that. They'll surprise us. Sometimes they surprise us in bad ways. Sometimes they are what counterintuitive things. You wouldn't have predicted knowing the system. Oh my God, that did what? Because you couldn't predict it. So we're all in these systems. Now, that's just a way to say that there is no tiny summation to be made from 3 days of incredible dialogue. I can't do it. So I'm going to just defer to questions. We'll take a Q&A right now. Can't do it. Can't summarize. There's too big. Too many moving parts. And they were rich parts. They were incredible parts. We strayed across law and politics and forestry and technology. All of these things braided together. And the assumption here in the program is the braided knowledge. We can figure out how to take this civilization based on these old ideas of Newton, Galileo, Descartes, and so forth. And we can braid them with indigenous knowledges. Now, we heard that we think of education happening in places like this. You grew up good, so yeah, so you get outdoors education, but education happens in places like this. They said it was in forests. You learn by being alert in a forest. Better be alert because your life depends on it. You have to know what is there and what's coming at you and what is a medicinal plant and what's not. So the forest was an educator. You and I, as deplaced people, are products of shopping malls and screens. We spend 9 hours on average a day looking at a screen. 9 hours. And so you don't know what happens outside doesn't really matter. The weather doesn't matter. You don't have to know the medicinal plants in the area around campus. That's not important to you. So, systems. The sustainable future part here in the program, it implies that we can master knowledge to get to a sustainable future. And the assumption is that we will be able to take more or less what we have in our culture and improve that a little bit around here. Make it cool and really efficient and so forth, and get something called sustainability. I don't think it's going to be that simple. And I think you get through 40 years of higher education and you haven't been taught something about how things don't always work out. What's called the tragic sense of life. There's not long and gloomy. The tragic sense of life that you broken hearts and diseases and problems and car accidents, friends that leave you and so forth. The real problem of the tragic sense of life is how do you get up and respond to that? You get up off the mat and oxygen and go back into the game. That's the point. So that's what we have to do. And we're starting with the handicap. And Part of the handicaps are that a good bit of our knowledge we don't really know much about. There was a physicist wrote an article in the New York Times last year or the year before, in which he said that the smartphones that you all have, you see, I still carry a flip phone right there. That's a flip phone. You can open this thing and you talk right there. You punch for it. I'll show you later if you want to. You make calls on it. One of the arguments that quantum mechanics is amazing. And we know quantum mechanics is more or less true in variation, you know, physics, you know, much more than I. But we don't know why it works. So your smartphone depends on quantum mechanics being working, so we don't know why it works. And then the dark matter in the universe is some 95% of all known or suspected matter is dark matter. We don't know what it is. We just know kind of that it's there. So we're more ignorant than we are smart. And what it is something we make is that ignorance is a solvable problem. It is, it just moves in different elevations, in different scales. So one of my friends, David Orr, was a law major. David was author of this way back when. He was a product of the MIT Systems Dynamics program. And she wrote an article, what's called Places in European System. You want to change the world, where do you intervene? Where do you put your efforts? So she had a list of 13. And the top of the list, it's all debatable, but the top of the list is obvious. You change policies, and you want bikers off roadways, put little signs up, and you do the obvious kind of stuff. Work down through her list, and when you change the system, you have to change how people think. Change the world, change paradigm. And so that's where people get killed. Think Nelson Mandela in prison, Martin Luther King shot, Bobby Kennedy shot, Jesus crucified, so when you get down here to see paradigm change, when you mess with people's worldview, that's where you get dangerous. She said that is the way you ultimately change the world. So the point here is, how do we reconcile being worldviews to get to this better sustainable future? And we have to begin to think out of the box. I hate that phrase. It's not thinking out of the box. Getting out of the box and start thinking. All right. Let me end with a couple of comments. We purport in places like this, like my home campuses, to improve mind. But the mind as a system, I'm talking about how you think, wasn't adapted by evolution to rational thinking. We're not so much rational as we are very adept rationalizers. We can rationalize anything. Oh, we won the election. They didn't. My team's going to win the Super Bowl. Or not. But we can rationalize all kinds of behavior. We're not so much rational as we are very adept rationalizers. And then the mind itself, nothing to do with the one of my favorite authors wrote a big thick book on the mind and described how the habits of the brain, this is for all of us, are really at war with each other. The book is called Masters and His Emissary. So there is a rank ordering in the brain. We're at war with ourselves. Because the part of the problem is to understand that about how we think and how we don't think very well about some things. And for educational institutions that purport to improve minds, then you have to think, how do we improve minds to understand this charge? And understand how do we combine indigenous knowledge with what we can out of what we salvage out of the modern worldview. That's a challenge. It doesn't help to have media that appeals primarily to the reptilian brain stem, the amygdala. We move on to education as a system. The poet Mary Oliver said in Hamilton, the rifle the other day, asked, what will you do with this one wild, crazy life of yours? So the quality of the students here for all of you. The question is, what will you do with all this other kind of stuff? What do you want to do? What do you inspire to do? The problem here, in a way, is it's very fascinating. A lot of synaptic activity. All of you are very bright. You're a very good institution, and everybody thinks very quickly. But as a cultural level, we are really slow learners. I was asking, tell me what we have done to improve human life over the past 2,000 years. Not one of our great ideas for human life, the system that we live in, this cultural system. You'd be our person telling me. But we still fight wars. We still cheat. We still steal. We still rob. We still do violent people. So tell me what we've learned over the course of a couple thousand years of civilization. The knowledge, and I think this came through very, very clearly, the only knowledge we can really depend on, I want to call it slow knowledge. It's been occurred over long periods of time. It's been tested in trial and error. You know it works or it doesn't work. The slow knowledge we had in indigenous knowledge, kind of a classic case of knowledge acquired slowly and painstakingly, and the curve of slow knowledge at the cultural level. It's not fast. It's a slow thinking that incorporates over a period of time. The things were worth keeping in the tradition because it worked. You knew certain things about game, certain things about land, water, and so forth, because it worked. You gave it that test. Even Wilson wants to do this way. You have paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, the godlike technology. So the reptilian brainstem still is there. And we report here in educational institutions to improve what you do. Now, I don't know, I said the other day, I'm a loving critic of education, and I'll stand by that. But we need to design educational institutions in ways that appeal to that full human reality. Look, Ray, we were designed to survive this way. That's not how the mind works. And now we have to begin to do things we've never done before. And time here is kind of short. So I'm going to shift over here to the last part of what I'm going to say to you. The big question in front of all of us, everybody in the room, everybody in the room, is how do we begin to calibrate, that's engineering work, what we do on the planet to feed ourselves, food, water, materials, energy, entertainment, education, and so forth. All that stuff, how do we calibrate all that into the way Earth works as a physical system? And remember, these places people have a hard time with because that Earth is an abstraction to us. There's just something wrong. We don't experience, nobody experiences it. People say they love the Earth. No, nobody loves it. You can't get your heart around your head around that much. So, how do we begin to recalibrate everything that we do? I think that's daunting in a way. We think how far we've come. The videos that we saw, that was an incredible project. We're learning how to generate power renewables. If you say you want to power University of Richmond or the United States and the world by renewable sunshine, we could do that. That's not a technological problem anymore. That is simply a political problem. It's not even an economic issue. That is a political problem. So it's all there to do it. The question is, how do we begin to calibrate these two quotes? Non-linear system. Non-linear just means there are lots of surprises based on the way the system works and anticipate. So how do you calibrate human behavior and the way Earth works as a physical system? And I want to close on this. I'm going to turn to politics and government. We heard incredible stories about the Maori people, tribal cultures in Amazon, U.S. cultures. We are unique in all of this in having a constitution. I think a constitution is the scaffolding we're building. That's what we hung our culture on. So that scaffolding of laws and regulations and institutions, we have courts and so forth, and that scaffolding is unique. Most cultures, indigenous cultures, didn't have a written document. They had a relationship. And the relationship was passed down through culture. They would have something like courts, but that was within the tribal culture. But we have this constitution. And for those of us here in the USA, that constitution mentions posterity one time. It's in the preamble of the document. Never again. Never mentioned again. And so future generations were no part of our legal scaffolding or legal culture. It's still not. So what rights do future generations have? None in that Constitution. Well, then I have 4 grandchildren. Their kids will have no rights. They are not included in that document. That was written by very talented, very smart white guys in an era that tolerated slavery. They hadn't gotten to that one system change point where the system said to change how you think that all humans are created. They can say the word all men are created equal. And it didn't take much imagination for women to say, hey, we're good to the planet. It didn't take much imagination for African Americans to go pretty historically to say, we're men too. And people of other cultures and backgrounds, but now the future generations are left out of that. They haven't learned from them. Some way everyone's sort of catering for future generations because what have they done for us lately? Well, nothing. They can't. But there's an irony in that, isn't it? Because if we operated on what was good for them, we would better know how to conduct our business here and now among ourselves. Politics. In the work I do now, I'm going to capitalize this in about 50 seconds. Think of democracy 1.0 as tribal democracy. We didn't invent democracy. The Greeks didn't invent it. It's been part of the human repertoire where people can do business for a long time. But 1.0 was the democracy in its variety of forms in tribal cultures all around the world. We didn't invent it. Democracy 2.0 was invented by the Greeks. And what they did was to add an element of rationality to it. The perfect element. It was the lawful system. There was slavery in the Greek world, and there was Roman part of it, and barbarians and foreigners were not part of it. So it was a limited kind of democracy. And he had the idea that we can rationally discuss these things. Democracy 3.0 starts in Philadelphia and the late 18th century. And that was the democracy we live in now. Or Fifth Amendment, they upgraded slaves, things that were now in 89, 90. But that's what we live now. That's democracy 3.0. But in sort of the marching hard time, I began with the introduction of one paragraph. In 1770, Tom Jefferson was still building Monticello. James Madison was over here at Princeton, Missouri. Thomas Paine was teaching school in a place called Lewis, England. And those 3 white men, all, in 30 years, by the year 1800, were the spark that led to a revolution, and they fought the mightiest army in the world. They wrote some of the greatest writings ever written about politics and how we do our business politically. Written the Constitution, they were the president, and first peaceful transfer of power. Imagine that peaceful transfer of power. What is it, I guess? But 30 years. Time is short. And the fastest thing in 1770 to 1800 was probably the fast horse with a sailing ship and a high wind. But they did an incredible job. They laid the groundwork for the way we live now. Our job is democracy, let's call it 4.0. And you can fill in the blanks. The 4.0 has to be about systems. It has to be about posterity. You've got to say that your children, my grandkids' kids, have rights. And then we have to say what we heard from all the tribal peoples here, the nature has rights, but rivers have rights, persons. And that's not any longer. That first article I was on, that was good night in Southern California law in 1972. The trees have standards. Well, yeah, they should have standards. Living things should have standards. And as long as the rights of those things, it's not just good for them, in a system it's good for us. It's good for somebody else or some other thing, or for natural object, it's good for us. It's all related. We're all the planet. So, what's next? And I'll end on this issue of climate change. It's what I've spent a lot of my time doing, written a couple books on climate change. It's not good news. 420 parts per million. We're 30 or some percent over what the background rate of 280 parts per million was. Then you have to add gas, you have to add other heat-trapping gases and CO2 equivalent units. And if you do that, you add another 50 or 60 parts per million to the numbers. The big numbers are against us, and there are remorses. There's a debate now between Dave Hansen, the most famous climate scientist in the world, and Michael Mann and some others that say, you know, if you could just level out emissions, if you level out emissions, zero them out, Earth's temperature will come back down. Hansen's point is that no, there's still 8 degrees centigrade off Fahrenheit warming in the pipeline. Now, I'll leave that to the climate science to fight that out. But either way, it's a disaster. We're at 1.2 degrees centigrade off Fahrenheit warming. And we've seen things we've never seen before. The Hurricane Otis that did that also went from a class 1 storm to a class 5 storm in 12 hours. The scientists that study this kind of stuff for a living said they'd never seen it like this before. It's kind of like an airline pilot gets fastened your seatbelt in for some bumpy terrain. Never seen these things before. So we're uncharted territory, and that's part of the challenge. Can we read it? Well, we end this. It depends what all of us do with our one facing world, that how we dedicate ourselves, the risks that we take, the things that we reach out and do. Getting out of the box and start thinking, start acting, start behaving. Can we make it? Yeah, I think so. That'll be a close call, but I think we can make it. And the second thing, the last thing is for 2005, Troy had to escape from kindergarten and do the close call and get some time. Part-time. Well, it's kind of my mission. You know, it depends what we do here in education institutions. There are 3,600 major colleges and universities in the United States, and around the world, probably another 10,000. It depends what we do. This is a part of how we think. All this chaos out there starts right here. It starts with categories of mind that are atrophy. Categories of mind that never occurred. Ideas that were never had. It starts right with how we develop that idea, those ideas. It's going to be easy. No, not easy, but it's going to be fun. We're good at parties, so we can have some parties and fun and laugh. But think of an educational institution that takes all of this stuff seriously. You've got a $3 billion plus endowment. We get over and have a $1 trillion plus endowment. You need to give us some of yours. Mark, is that to go? Never mind. Stay quiet. But how is that money invested? Because the pressure on their rainforest starts with those markets and the demand that they generate. This is not a trivial. If we're serious about it, and what was actually, then look at what we do with this thing we call a system, how it affects those things, how does our money work, how do you spend your budgets? I have the same questions to Oberlin and to Arizona State. How we exert that power in the world. The pressure on those rainforests and soybeans and cattle and all that market starts up here in Brazil. That has got to be called. They have a chance. It's got to be, you've got to get hard nosed about what is driving those roads. And then how we spend locally. How that endowment is spent within the local community, or how you provision yourself locally. All right, I've said more than I intended to. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So thanks all of you.